Can you be a nomad forever? It's a question I get asked quite frequently from folks who ask if the nomad capitalist lifestyle is the one that you can sustain for a year, 5 years, 10 years, even an entire lifetime. Can you be a nomad forever? I can tell you that, speaking from my own experience, I think that how we live as nomad capitalists is as we live in life. And as in life, we adapt. When I started researching this stuff and trying to implement this stuff in my life, going back about 13 years now, I had no idea what I was doing. And the idea of going and spending time in other countries, even though I did it a little bit as a kid, was fascinating. And it was fascinating largely because I didn't really understand what it was all about. I didn't know what to expect. Every new thing was unique and interesting, and there were so many opportunities. And as I traveled more and more, I found more opportunities, and I understood more about what it was like to travel. Travel from my home in the United States on a long-term basis merged into perpetual travel as a nomad, where I dragged a suitcase behind me, almost never going to a permanent home. And I did that for years. Eventually, I started to set up one base, and I stored some clothes there, but I was once again on the road most of the time. And I've continued to evolve into my trifecta approach, where you have 3 homes or sometimes more homes where you bounce between around the world. I've built my business larger, so I've got a team now that helps me. And as in life, my nomad capitalist strategy has adapted. I've gotten older, I've gotten wiser, I've done a lot, and I've said to some of the things that I've done, yeah, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. These days, I don't travel around the world so much to go and meet bankers. I send someone else to do that. These days, I go to places that I personally want to go. I'm not going to countries so much just to check them off the list. I'm not going to countries as much to be the first one to check on opportunities. I have people that I know who help me with that. And so the result is, can I keep doing this forever? What this is something that will change over time. I think for anyone to expect that they're going to live the exact same life year after year after year, some people do enjoy long-term perpetual travel. I know a couple guys, they've been doing it for a dozen years, all in a suitcase. They own 5 t-shirts, right? They do not have a home, and that's how they live. I think for most people, especially for entrepreneurs and investors, you're going to find that when you become a nomad capitalist, you might start by doing some exploration. That wide-eyed exploration is going to help you narrow down, where you want to spend your time. It's going to help you narrow down, what kind of places you want to be, what you like, what you don't like. For me, what's been really important over the years is developing a sense of self-awareness and really dialing into that sense of self-awareness to understand, I don't like this certain thing. And it took me a while longer than it probably should have to understand what kind of attributes I didn't like so I could remove them from my life. I could remove places that had those attributes. And by doing that, I do believe you can continue this lifestyle for as long as you want. People say, this is a single man's game. Well, you have to decide, do you want to be a single man? Do you want to be a single woman? If you do, that's okay. And you can go out there, and I'm confident you can continue to adapt. If you want to be with someone, if you want to have a partner, if you want to be married, I think you can find people who appreciate this lifestyle. And it can be challenging, but can it be done? I sit around at times and Mrs. H and I talk about how neither of us really like where we are from. And we want to explore, we want to live other places, and we want to find those places that really warm our soul and make us feel welcome. And we realize that those places do not have to exist at home, because we have the mindset that I think is so important in fueling this perpetuity, that this is not an experiment. I took the ultimate step. I can't go back to where I'm from and just live there wherever I want. If I want to go back to where I was born, I have to get a visa, I've got to get a residence permit. I can't go back. I've taken that permanent step, and many people won't take that permanent step. In fact, most won't. But I've committed to this being for forever, because I understand that you can find places that feel good and that feel better even than where you're from. You can do that. You can do it with a partner. People say, well, what happens when you have kids? Doesn't it have to end there? And again, people have these kind of these subconscious blocks where, okay, get married, now it's time to go home and raise a family, or have kids, want them to grow up where I grew up. You know what we say here at Nomad Capitalist is go where you're treated best. And for me, I look at 1984, the year that I was born. The United States was #1 on the list of best places to be born. It's not #1 now. In fact, it's not barely even in the top 20. And if I were to have children, I would think that it will be even lower by then. It's no longer one of the world's freest economies in the top 5. It's no longer a lot of things. Things change. That's what we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist. The countries that once were great, the brand names that still survive, no longer offer what they once did. And so to say, well, can you do this forever? To me, flies in the face of the fact that people should be adapting to the way that the world is changing. The idea that something is going to click in your mind, and okay, now we need to go back home, is it comes from the mindset that this was never permanent. This was merely an experiment. If you want to commit to life as a nomad capitalist and you want to physically live somewhere else, it's not an experiment. It's your life. It's something that you're doing. And to put an expiration date on it, to me, feels very inorganic. If you have kids, one thing I've been talking about is having private tutors. There are international schools, and if you're a 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur, you can afford international schools with all the money that you're saving on taxes where you come from. But having a private tutor is interesting. One thing I talk to my friends who have kids about is, I say, come and visit me in Asia. Come and visit me in Eastern Europe. I told my friends, he's going to come to Serbia this summer. I said, bring your older son. Let him see what it's like. Let him see what the culture is and how it differs. Let him see the dating culture. Let him see how people interact and go about their lives and how they live. And I said, I can promise you this. He's going to get a lot better education coming and hanging out in Serbia for a while than he is going to public school where you live. And so imagine that we take that to its fullest extent, and you have your children living in the world, meeting people from all over the world, learning different languages. To me, that's something that gives those kids endless opportunities forever. Now, let me be clear. One thing I've really talked about a lot recently is this does not have to be permanent. You can have an escape switch. You can have the opportunity to go back to whatever life it is that you want, whether that's going back to the country that you're from, whether that's settling in one country, whatever that looks like to you. I think to go into this with the idea of it's temporary is certainly okay. For some people on a financial level, they want to go overseas for 5 years, make a whack of cash, save a bunch of money, go home. But that's not the nomad capitalist lifestyle on a long-term basis. You have the option to go back. Nothing is permanent. For me, I fundamentally like places that are a bit off the beaten track. I like places that people aren't talking about. I like emerging countries where costs of living are lower, people are a little bit kinder sometimes, and that's just what I like. For me, going and living in Australia or in the United States, that's not the goal for me. I'm living the goal. You have to understand your goals. And as we continue to adapt, we'll all continue to make different decisions. You may see me 15 or 20 years from now living on Jersey with a terrier and just living in a nice house on the water. That might be the adaptation. Living in a tax-friendly country, running a business or having sold a business. And living a different life that's more settled. I think that we're allowed to do that. I think that we're allowed to adapt and to change. The question is if you're going to change the entire reasons why you wanted to become a nomad capitalist in the first place. For me, those are the most important things, and those reasons can indeed last forever. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.